want to talk about metrics and privilege. So before we start, it's important to talk about the difference between process metrics, right? Things that measure how we do something, and outcome metrics, things that measure whether we've reached the completion state of the behavior. So a good example is, an outcome metric might be something like revenue, right, for a company, whereas a process metric might be something like time on site or clicks on an ad, right? I don't actually care about the process metric independently. I only care about it because it drives my outcome metric. I only care about clicks on an ad to the extent that it drives my overall profitability, right? So outcome metrics, process metrics. When you are junior, you will be given a lot of process metrics because you want to be managed and controlled. Like, people will want to take control of you by monitoring what you're doing rather than the outcome of what you're doing. And as you get more senior, your metrics will increasingly drift towards outcome metrics. You'll be held accountable for, the thing that happens rather than how you do it. You'll maintain your autonomy about how you do it, right? Instead, it'll be about whether you drive the thing. So why am I harping on about this? Because while it is true that in more junior places, you tend to have sort of more process metrics and in more senior roles, you tend to have more outcome metrics, privilege is one of the things that shortcuts that. So it is true that, for example, white males are increasingly able to ignore process metrics in the beginning as long as they achieve the outcome metrics, right? More attention is paid to their outcomes than to how they reached those outcomes, right? Whereas for people who are maybe not white, maybe not male, maybe not as educated, right? Classism, sexism, racism, pick your ism. You are often unable to ignore process metrics. So even if you reach the acceptable outcome, if you don't do it in the way they want you to do it, it is problematic. So if you want to be anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-classist, etc., one of the most important things that you can do is hold other people accountable for their outcomes, not their process. It doesn't actually matter, for example, that my son sits there and eats his food. He can dance around like a madman. The only outcome I really care about is him eating his food. And so rather than trying to control his process, I can release him by focusing on his outcome. That is something that all of us can do everywhere in every environment, is to increasingly reorient ourselves towards outcome metrics because it destroys privilege, right? It levels the playing field. It makes a better world when we focus on outcome metrics, not process metrics.